This company raised a $50 million Series B, and here's 3 things that Lunchbox got incredibly right in its pitch. First up, let's talk about how Lunchbox illustrates its impact. It's not just about the problem, but it's the impact of the problem and the impact of the solution on the problem. On slide 8, the company showcases a case study that it did with a company called Clean Juice. And Lunchbox really effectively demonstrates why it's an essential player in the food tech space. By presenting real-world results, you can't argue with a 30% increase in order frequency, and it means that investors can really quickly get to the tangible benefits. The approach both shows impressive growth markets, but it also subtly implies that similar successes could be replicated by other businesses. This really is storytelling at its finest. It's balancing between intriguing data points and relatable customer success stories without bogging it all down with technical details. And investors get to see that the product actually works. Customers find value and are willing to pay for it. Next up, I want to highlight the company's Why Now slide. So it looks like a busy slide at first, but it's packed with a lot of compelling information about market trends and the company's meteoric growth trajectory. A staggering 540% from 2020 to 2021, followed by another huge leap of 360% the next year, and then reaching $15 million of ARR. Look, I might have chosen to present this differently, maybe more prominent and maybe earlier on in the pitch deck, to be honest, but there's no denying that these numbers demand investor attention. There's no investor that'll take a look at this slide and goes, I'm not interested. Like, this is gold dust. This is amazing. And this narrative conveys the urgency and the opportunity within an exploding market. It's ripe for disruption, and Lunchbox is doing it. And together, this paints a picture of a company where success is inevitable if they continue down the path they have been on. Now, that's like catnip to investors. It's a really good way of telling the story, and I'm really impressed. It's also very interesting to note that this slide deck has a comprehensive competitor analysis. It's got this slide, which shows an enormous amount of potential competitors in this space. And that's, it's overwhelming, right? I suspect that the presence of this slide shows that Lunchbox has a lot of pushback from investors about this particular slice of it. Here, though, it's doing something really interesting. It's positioning itself against Toast and saying Toast unifies the back of house, whereas Lunchbox unifies the front of house. That's really powerful because in the next slide, it actually explicitly positions itself against Toast, but not as a competitor, kind of more as a how are we comparable? And that's a really good idea. It will pique the interest of investors. It kind of underscores the potential future plans around an IPO or further expansion efforts. And it's also talking about Toast's recent financial disclosures along their own achievements. And so what this slide is doing really masterfully is like, hey, we are in the same track as Toast, but for a different audience. And by both differentiating and comparing at the same time, this slide really helps illustrate why this is such a compelling investment opportunity in what Lunchbox says is a much larger market than what Toast is doing. And so what the company is really doing here is very subtly suggests that it has legitimacy today, but it couples that with aspirational visions tomorrow, and it sets the stakes towards explosive growth trajectories coming up. And so it's setting the stakes towards explosive growth trajectories coming up. I think ultimately what really sets this pitch deck apart is that apart from the fact that it looks good, it helps remind us that successful pitches aren't just about flashy slides or verbose jargon-filled explanations. Like, this deck is not talking about a pipe dream. It's talking about a very specific execution-led vision for a future they want to be in. And Lunchbox really exemplifies precisely this art form. It's really well done all the way through. You can read the full pitch deck teardown I did of this deck over on TechCrunch. I'll drop a link below. And thank you for watching.